French President Emmanuel Macron hopes tax relief and other fiscal measures will calm violent nationwide protests there. The reforms are expected to cost around 10 billion euros. French Ambassador to the United States, Gerard Leroux, joins me here on set. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for being here. First, this breaking news out of Strasbourg. There's a death toll now. The Associated Press has it at 4. A shooting in a Christmas market. Suspect wounded. Anything? It says a terrorism investigation.
Well, apparently, you know, I don't have, of course, news. It has happened a few hours ago. The suspect has not been arrested. We know who he is. You know, apparently he is an Islamist terrorist. He's chased. There are 3 or maybe 4 people who have been killed, but at least 12 have been wounded. We have been facing this challenge for some time now, unfortunately.
The threat from radical
Islamism, yes, is still there.
I want to turn to the protests. It seems, I mean, here is the French president in his address to the nation. Take a listen.
I feel the anger. Give us another chance. I want to see an immediate and real improvement in the salaries, and this is why I am ordering an end-of-the-year bonus for all employees without any tax.
You know, he's increasing minimum wage, proposal tax cuts for retirees, other concessions as well, and yet it doesn't seem like that's stopping the protests.
You know, in a sense, the powder keg of the explosion was more or less what we are seeing in the US, in UK with Brexit, everywhere. We have in France, like in this country and elsewhere, we have millions of citizens who consider they have been left behind by globalization, automation. You know, it's the lower middle class, the people living in small cities, in rural areas, and they are rebelling. And they have been rebelling also against our government, the government of President Macron, who has been trying to reform France. So that, I think, that's the social background of the crisis.
It was interesting to watch politicians and people here in this country, especially on the left, because this started as a climate change effort. This fuel tax. Neera Tanden with the Center for American Progress tweeted, "I don't understand why any progressive is cheering French protesters who are amassing against a carbon tax." There was a real divide about how to do that if you want to tackle it, especially if you're coming from the left side of at least American politics.
Well, you know, in French politics, the protesters are saying we are serious about ourselves about fighting climate change, but basically they say, you know, one of them said something very special. He said, "We are concerned about the end of the world, but we are also concerned about the end of the month."
Yeah.
So really, and it's full of common sense. When you are increasing the price of gas for the people, especially for the people living in the rural areas, it has consequences on the standard of living. And I think that's what the French government didn't take into account. So now I think the president has decided to face this problem.
Right. So he lists all these concessions. He says, "I'm sorry." He wants to do all of these different things, yet it doesn't seem to be appeasing the protesters, which have cost your country a lot of money in tourism, in shopping, and everything else.
For France are very good demonstrators, and that's a tradition in our country. We are going to see, you know, and of course there are always people who are not satisfied with what the president has decided, but I think we are going to see in the coming days whether these demonstrations are going to be as strong as they were last week.
The relationship between President Trump and President Macron, largely talked about when the two visited, that it was very warm. You had the foreign minister rather, saying, "I say to Donald Trump, the French president told him as well, we don't take part in American debates. Let us live our life in our country." That message sent, I guess, after the tweets he sent out about France?
Well, you know, in a family, you have very good squabbles. So in a Franco-American relationship, you have bumps. We have had bumps. You have bumps. But fundamentally, the relationship between the two countries remain excellent.
And they still talk?
And they still talk. They talk a lot on the phone, yes.
I want to turn to another foreign policy issue, and that is Iran. They've just tested some long-range ballistic missiles. France was actually on the forefront of really cracking down on Iran in the nuclear agreement. Where do you see Iran today, and what could be happening?
You know, basically what we have been telling our American friends is that we take very seriously what the Iranians are doing in terms of missile activities, in terms of terrorism, in terms of regional aggression, and that we were ready to work with the American on that. There was a negotiation actually between the three main European countries and the US on this issue. So we are still ready. We are still ready to work with the American on. Really, we share 100% the concerns of the Americans.
Do you think a deal is going to be repurposed?
We really, basically, we say we do consider that the decision of the American administration to get out of the Iran deal was a bad decision. But we hope that we can work together on the other issues I've referred to: terrorism, regional activities, and missiles. And actually, there are negotiations between the Europeans and the Americans on these issues.
Well, Mr. Ambassador, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.